This is Paul Turner, the immigration barrister to Imperial James. Good morning to you. The question I have today really relates to immigration, but ultimately, who runs the UK? Who's the real Prime Minister? Is it Boris or is it Nigel Farage? I say this as the amnesty-loving Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, seems incapable of following through with his promise to consider an amnesty, let alone implement one, despite being the proud son of Turkish descendants and also an American migrant. And instead it allows his increasingly isolated and criticised Secretary of State to continue with her extreme policies, despite numerous reports criticising her and her admission that her asylum system, for which she is responsible, is in fact broken. Is it that Boris is running scared of Nigel Farage? Does he not have the integrity to live up to his word? Well, he's been talking about an amnesty for many years, but he's never actually acted on it, and he's supposed to be the boss. And I also say this because Priti Patel has covertly relaunched a controversial programme that uses councils and homeless charities to obtain personal data that can lead to the deportation of non-UK rough sleepers. This was widely criticised, perhaps understandably, as targeting the most vulnerable people in society, but fits with the Secretary of State's almost pathological attempts to appear tough on migrants. Not content with the hostile environment which prevents those here without leave not having the right to work or to rent or drive, the Home Office is now trying to target people that are even more vulnerable, people that don't even have somewhere to live, often people that have ended up in that position because of physical and mental problems. What compounds this and makes this even more disgusting is that 2 charities and 6 councils signed up to the government scheme since it was quietly relaunched 6 months ago, thus undermining the trust further of rough sleepers to approach charities or councils for fear of being shot to immigration and then deported. This is disgraceful on behalf of the government and the councils, and even worse, charities that are assisting on the quiet, as it were, the Home Office, probably without informing their clients properly, especially if they've got mental health difficulties, that the consequences of their information being passed to the Home Office. This latest scandal was uncovered by Liberty, who, when they confronted one charity that had signed up to the London-based single homeless persons charity, backed out of the scheme after being approached by Liberty. Shame on them for agreeing in the first place, but not surprising they backed out. Laughably, when approached about this, a Home Office spokesman said the scheme and forms were designed to gather information on an individual's status and was not really for potential immigration purposes, but was designed to establish if the rough sleeper had access to public funds. The spokesperson said the purpose is to resolve their status and identify any additional support they need. Now, in plain English, that means identify the people that we can get rid of and don't really have a chance of mounting any challenge and ship them off. This is yet a further example of this current Home Secretary's leaning to the right, to appear tough. She identified and segregated people on the basis of their race and sex and placed them in insanitary accommodation. For example, at Napier barracks, at one point over half the people held there contracted COVID, despite being warned beforehand that the accommodation was unsuitable. Reminds you of 1930s Germany, herding people by virtue of their sex and race into camps? Sounds a bit familiar to me, but I've done a video on that. Now she seeks to target even the most vulnerable people by seeking to remove the people that have the least chance, possibly due to mental or physical health, of actually accessing what limited legal services there are available. But in effect, it's a pointless waste of money, given my previous video that shows despite talking tough, and she loves to talk tough, this Home Secretary and this Home Office are removing even less people from the United Kingdom than before. Surely the time has come for Boris's humane approach. How much longer will it take for him to rein in his most right-wing of Secretary of States? A bully. Yes, a bully. That's what she was found to be, who previously had to resign because she was having sneaky trips to Israel, which she hadn't declared. Maybe she's got some hold over Boris. Who knows? Especially given his predilection for the female sex and some of the scandals that have been coming out. Or maybe that he's scared, and this is probably the truth of the matter, that if he shows any compassion to migrants, then up will pop Nigel Farage like a little puppet and spout a load of right-wing drivel about the country being awash with migrants, notwithstanding that Boris himself is a migrant and Priti is the descendants of migrants. And then he will be made to look weak, and God help that, rather than human. This really, as I say, calls into question who runs the country. Is it Boris Johnson, the elected Prime Minister, or some right-wing demagogue and his puppet, the Secretary of State for the Home Office? As I said before, the only clear way to deal with this is to have an amnesty, appoint a Secretary of State that actually knows what they're doing and can make the correct decisions, and start again. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers.